Hey guys, what is up? It is me, Pagey, here once again with another video on Superman and Lois Season 3, and this is going to be my review for episode 11 for this season, the third final episode, otherwise entitled Complications, and that's probably a good way to word the episode. But of course, spoiler alert, if you've not watched the episode, go away. There's a couple of major different things that happen, including the trailer that they showed as well, which we won't discuss here. But yeah, especially the ending. I don't even know what's necessarily going on there. It's a bit crazy. But yeah, spoiler, if you not watch the episode, go away. But if you have watched the episode, you are continuing on, be sure to let me know in the comment section down below your various thoughts about this episode, everything like that. Always curious to what you guys are thinking, as well as any theories and predictions you have moving forward into the final two episodes. And of course, if you're going to enjoy the video, want to show support, and you enjoyed the episode and everything like that, drop a like on the video. It takes 2 seconds. So last episode, we had Pia escaping from the DOD and reuniting with Bruno and Mateo. Mateo's now sort of being on the side of his father and what he's trying to achieve, you know, in curing Pia and everything like that. And on the other side of things, Clark sort of is like forced to reveal he is Superman to Kyle, mainly just due to bad timing. Just Kyle arriving at the worst timing possible. This sort of being a result of Jordan not being more careful with the use of his powers throughout Smallville, though that's not overly touched upon in this episode. That might be something that happens next episode, because this was I don't want to say it was a self-contained episode, but it felt like we're only in like 2 or 3 locations throughout the entire episode. But speaking of this episode, this was like, it felt weird. I think like there was some stuff in this episode which was a bit like weird, like maybe like it didn't feel like it suited the other side of the episode, but it also felt like a season finale. I don't know, maybe it was just because it was wrapping up one side of this season, and I think the last 2 episodes are opening on another side, and you know, everything like that, but it felt like half of a season finale. I don't know if anyone agrees with me. You have to let me know in the comment section down below. But with what it did with PR, Bruno, Mateo, and that whole side of things, and you can even argue the Lois storyline and everything like that, it felt like a season finale. But then it didn't at the same time. It was like a half-half situation. But to be honest, Superman and Lois, especially in season 1, did this. I think it was like episode 12 or 13. It felt like they'd wrapped up the season, and then there was just like 2 or 3 more episodes at the end. So maybe we're getting something similar to that in this season as well. Which maybe is a good thing, because I think this season's probably been, quality-wise at the very least, probably on par with season 1. So maybe it's just following that, I don't want to say formula, but the same structure, if you want to put it. But in regards to the breakdown of the episode, we have a bit of an action-packed start to the episode, sort of. I thought we were maybe going to get a bit more than what we got, but it makes you think we're going to get an action-packed start, where we have Pia going crazy on the streets with her powers, which now have she wasn't going crazy on the streets, but she was sort of like, her powers are unleashed within the subway, like she couldn't control them, but it was affecting the streets, and Superman just can't locate her. Like, this goes in hand with what we've seen previously this season, where because of her powers and everything, it's not easy for him to like go, oh, she's in Big Belly Burger or something like that. He can't do that. But along with this, we do see that Lois is prepping for her surgery, you know, just taking some like, I guess, pre-surgery, like the day before, like tests and everything like that. But at the same time, we see that the Mannheims are packing up and getting ready to move out of Metropolis and just the country as a whole. But along with this, we do see, you know, firsthand, Pia's just losing control of her abilities. Like, even a simple cough is turning into this burst of energy, which just screamed like, uh-oh, that's not going to end good. Because you can just see she's slowly losing control of it. And, you know, who knows if any of this solution that they're giving her is going to help with that situation. And just because we're heading to the end of the season, you just felt like things were going to, you know, come to a head, and they came to a head pretty quickly. I thought we might have been waiting until next episode for this to be resolved, but no, they decided to go wham, bam, thank you, ma'am, throughout this episode. Now, Clark and Kyle do catch up after the reveal of last episode, and Kyle just seems to be stoked to be in on the secret, at least in front of Clark. As soon as Clark leaves, you know, flaunting his Superman abilities, you know, when leaving, Kyle does have the shits about it. He has the shits about everyone lying to him. Last episode, when he was, you know, talking about someone having powers in the town, he's specifically voicing this frustration to Chrissy, you know, with her, and I guess also Lana and stuff, making him feel like a bit of a clown. And I can understand where Kyle is coming from, but at the same time, it's not like they were keeping a little secret that everyone, it wasn't like it was a little secret that everyone was keeping, like, oh yeah, he stole the cookie from the cookie jar. It wasn't anything like that. I was like, yeah, this is goddamn Superman. Like, you know, like, it's sort of a bit of a risk if his identity gets out there. So I wonder if, I don't think that's going to play into it. Like, it'd be weird if they made Kyle into this guy who just tells everyone that Clark is Superman. So I don't see that happening. And also Kyle sort of comes around by the end of the episode anyway. But yeah, I can sort of understand where Kyle was coming from, but you sort of got to see the other side of everyone that was keeping that secret. But speaking of Clark, him and Lois do host a dinner before Lois goes into surgery with the DC Universe's version of Hooters, which was brought up like an episode or two ago. Was it Bazumbas? I mean, the packaging on the bag was interesting. So they would have had to make that up. So whoever the graphic designer was that did that for the show, kudos to you, because you had to make that up. But anyway, I thought this was a nice moment for Lois and Clark and the adults in general. Just them having this talk and everything. I thought it felt really nice. But we do have some more relationship drama with Jordan and Sarah, with Sarah sort of spiraling into her negative thoughts over the recent events, including last episode where she got into that car crash and should have died. She should have died because of that whole thing. Jordan saved her, but now she's a thing against her record. DUI is going to affect her, credibility as a person, getting into college, getting a job, everything like that. And though it hasn't been overly focused on since season 1, and even just, from that point to this point now, we do know that Sarah tried to take her own life before the Kents moved back to Smallville. It's sort of referenced in the pilot episode and the character description and stuff like that. I'd say the character description highlights it more than anything the show's really overly focused on until this point. So you can understand why Lana is super concerned and then sort of reaches out to Kyle for help with it all. And together, I think they handled it well. Like, Kyle pretty much tells Sarah, like, yo, you got to get a job. And then, I know. So that should keep her mind off it, you'd have to think. Now, Natalie wants to see Mateo again, so she does go to Metropolis, but is actually tracked by John Henry. And though it seems that John gets through to Natalie about letting Mateo go and it's time to move on and everything like that, we do see that Natalie actually leaves behind something for Mateo. I wasn't too sure what it was at the time. I think we've seen it before on the show, but I wasn't too sure. But we learned that it's like a beacon sort of like activation sort of alert system thing. And like we had with Sarah, with her sort of like spiraling back into her negative thoughts, we also do see that Jordan starts to have like an anxiety attack of sorts as Lois is prepping for surgery, almost as if we were flashing back to season 1's events. Like we saw Jordan go through this back then, but we see that it is actually his X-ray vision that's coming through. And this is sort of like the first time we've seen him go through some power stuff, because that was mainly season 1. Season 2 didn't really overly have any of that, so we're revisiting that now in season 3. And I didn't even realize, I actually sort of forgot he didn't even have X-ray vision yet. But yeah, he's just got his other powers, I guess, pretty much everything else except X-ray vision. With him still, being able to see everything in front of him despite his eyes being completely shut. So have fun sleeping, Jordan, if you ever have issues with that again. But Jonathan's actually the one to calm him down rather than Clark, which I thought was a nice thing, because this episode sort of had the brothers sort of like coming back together and feeling like brothers again, because there has been some tension in recent episodes with, between the two. But shortly after this, Pia has another loss of control of her powers, and she just unleashes a massive scream and burst of energy, just shutting the power off in the hospital, as well as Metropolis as a whole, and she isn't calming down. And despite giving another like dose of whatever they were giving to Pia, it doesn't calm her down at all, with one of the gnarliest moments I think I've seen on a DC show on network TV, at least at this time slot, when Pia accidentally explodes one of the Bruno's goons. Gnarly and unexpected, blood everywhere, minced meat, chop chunk steak, whatever you want to call it. RIP that dude, because he's everywhere. He's just been exploded. Wow. I wasn't expecting that. I was like, oh my goodness, that was pretty crazy. But yeah, that just shows that how powerful Pia is, but also how dangerous she is without any control there. It was just, pretty crazy. Now, Lois does head into surgery despite the issues with PR and the power in the city. And after Pia's outburst, Mateo actually runs off to try and get outside help, but instead actually sets off that beacon sort of device that alerts Natalie that she'd said earlier, with her arriving, but also Bruno also arriving shortly after, with then John Henry being like, I'll tag in as well. He also arrives, but helping Pia ends up being the main concern because of what's happening, and she's just completely unleashed. But she's not unleashed in the subway anymore. She's on the streets unleashing her power. So she's even more dangerous, because she's affecting just random civilians now rather than just like, what she was doing before. Now, Superman arrives to try and stop Pia, with Lois, Lois's surgery happening whilst the city is literally shaking. So like, talk about needing a steady hand as a goddamn surgeon. But Superman is able to reach Pia and sort of get through to her, and sort of talks her into letting herself, letting go out on her own terms and stuff, and that like Bruno and Mateo would understand, because she's in just pain. She's not just unable to control these powers, it's associated with her pain and everything that she's going through. So Superman is able to take her into the sky, where she is able to go out on her own terms and let go and unleash completely, which ultimately does kill her. And the scene with Mateo and Bruno handling Pia's body, with even like John and Natalie looking on, who understand the loss of a mother and wife, as well as Clark, who has his wife going through what Pia went through, but coming out in a better way. I think that was pretty well done. That imagery there I thought was pretty well done. And in that moment, I mean, you feel for Matteo because he hasn't really done anything wrong, but you also feel for Bruno and you also feel for Pia. Despite Bruno and Pia being really bad guys, they've killed people and everything like that, though you could argue they've killed people that might be seen as bad, except for maybe the former mayor of Smallville. I don't know if he was that bad where he deserved to die, but, you know, like, they've done bad things, but you still have some sympathy there as well. And I guess the cherry on top of this whole situation, I guess a bit of a bright side coming out of it, is that Lois's surgery goes well. So that's a bright spot coming out of it. Now, Bruno and Matteo do face the DOD for their actions of recent, with Matteo being excused for his role due to Bruno making a deal to take full blame. And you'd have to think this is going to be linked to the Lex Luthor stuff, which I was wondering, you know, as we're getting closer to the end of the episode, like, if with Pia dying and this whole thing, would we see something with Lex Luthor? But obviously, we're waiting until the next episode because he's actually legitimately in the trailer, and they're going to go through that whole deal of him getting out. So that's going to be very interesting to watch. But I don't know if that's the last we see of Bruno Matteo in this season. I guess Matteo would be out if he's excused, so we might see more of him. I'm not too sure if we'll see more of Bruno Matteo, but I'd assume we might, but that's a wait and see, I guess. But at the end of the episode, I mean, we know that Lex Luthor's coming next episode based off the trailer, but they decide to go, yeah, okay, he's coming back, but we got something else here. So in the messed up subway station that Pia destroyed, and obviously they're packing up all this stuff to leave, we do see that Bizarro has, well, he's woken up. He's woke. We've got a woke Bizarro. He's awakened now. And yeah, he doesn't seem overly human. There is something going on with his skin. He's almost like zombified. I'm very interested to see what he's like. I think he's actually going to act more like Bizarro from the comics, because obviously Bizarro last season just talked like completely backwards. Like he actually just talked in reverse. Like if you reverse his voice or something, like it spoke normally. So, and rather in the comics where he just says the opposite. So instead of saying yes, he'll say no. And instead of, night, he'll say day, whatever it is. So I'm very intrigued to see what this is like now, because he seems zombified. There's weird stuff going on with his skin. It's a bit creepy. I can't wait to see what they do there. But overall, I thought this episode was a pretty solid one. It felt like, as I said, like a season finale. It was sort of weird, and like I'd say, like 60 to 70% of it felt like a season finale. But yeah, I'm very interested to see what these last 2 episodes are like for the season. We don't have an episode next week. We're taking a 1-week break, so we have to wait an extra week until we get to that Lex Luthor stuff and whatever the hell is happening with the new Bizarro that's now woken up. So I'm very interested to see what happens there. But yeah, I think this episode handled the exit of Pia as a character really well, and potentially Bruno Matteo if we don't see them again, though I think we will, that it might be in like a minor role compared to what we've seen recently with them in the this season. So yeah, very interested to see what happens there, and yeah, I enjoyed the episode. But thanks for watching, guys. Hopefully you enjoyed the video. If you did, it'd be awesome if you could drop a like and show support. Let me know in the comments section down below your various opinions about this episode, what you love, what you hate. Were you happy with the conclusion to the Pia or Onomatopoeia character on the show? Do you have any theories for the Bizarro stuff and even the Lex Luthor stuff, and maybe how that connects going forward into these final 2 episodes? Let me know in the comments section down below. And of course, if you are new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, and I'll catch you guys later. Goodbye.